But as I said, President Trump is slated to visit Yuma, Arizona today to mark a campaign promise, the completion of 200 miles of a new wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. It is the president's second visit to Arizona in the past few months. After a stopover in Yuma, Trump is expected to head to Phoenix to deliver remarks at a church event for a conservative student organization called Turning Points USA. But in a statement, the mayor of Phoenix said the event, quote, does not abide by current CDC guidelines during COVID-19. The mayor's statement also reads in part, quote, "Well, I do not believe an event of this magnitude can be held safely, particularly as Arizona sees rising COVID cases. The president has decided to continue with this rally. Everyone attending tomorrow's event, particularly any elected official, should set an example to residents by wearing a mask. This includes the president." Jonathan Lemire, I'm wondering if you can, first of all, back up a little bit, because I've seen a lot of controversy on Twitter, the president and his wall and the way different media outlets are covering it. He wants a certain story out there about his wall. Not sure he's going to get it. But then also the safety issue. The trail of germs left in Tulsa after 6,200 people crammed into the lower seats of a convention center is going to be bad enough. And now he's hopscotching around the country, sending a signal that masks are a bad idea. I mean, this president constantly is putting American people's lives at risk as he demands their presence.
Mika, we have a lot of storylines coming from the president's trip to Arizona today, of which I will be traveling with him. And I'll start with this one. It's going to be 109 degrees in Yuma. Not good, folks. But what we have him heading to the border wall, as you say, trying to, in some ways, change the subject from what we're seeing all around us. He's trying to go back to 2016, talk about immigration. It comes on the heels of him signing an executive order yesterday that cuts down the number of visas that are going to be issued for the next few months in relation to, in connection to the pandemic, the White House says. He's marking it. It's about 200 miles, 212 miles, the president tweeted yesterday, of this border wall. Of course, it was his signature campaign promise 4 years ago. He did indeed fight on Twitter last night with Fox News, suggesting he wasn't getting enough credit for the number of the amount of wall that had already been constructed. So that's one stop. And it also comes on the heels of the White House trying to make the case that some of the rise of COVID infections they're seeing in states like Arizona and Texas are because of crossings from the Mexico border, which, of course, angered a lot of immigration groups, and Democrats suggested that was a scapegoating tactic. The White House has not provided any evidence to back up that assertion. But it's not just the border. This today, of course, will be the president's first political event since the debacle that was this weekend in Tulsa, when he drew a much smaller than expected crowd to his first comeback rally, leaving him furious and his staff in turmoil. Today's event is not officially a campaign rally. The campaign's not organizing it, but it is a political event. He's speaking at this group, this Young Republicans group in Phoenix that's founded by Charlie Kirk, who's an ally of the president's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr. And there's going to be thousands of people inside this megachurch in Phoenix. And as the mayor said, she doesn't believe that it can be held safely. She's urging everyone to wear masks. But as we know, the president has yet to wear one in a public setting. It's unclear that he will today. We're not sure if the attendees will wear it. And this comes as Arizona becomes one of the leading hotspots in terms of a surge in coronavirus infections.
John, it's a dry 109 in Yuma, so you've got that going for you. I think you'll be just fine in your wool gray suit there, my friend. But let me ask you about campaign themes for 2020. If you closed your eyes and listened to that rally in Tulsa the other night, you could have replaced a few names and dates with a 2016 rally. And it appears, again, as you say, with this issuing of the executive order that suspends temporary work visas in this country and immigration play there, going down to survey the wall, a tiny, tiny sliver of which actually has been built as new wall since he became president of the United States. It does look like he's leaning back on the 2016 playbook, going to those familiar themes. Is that the idea with these two acts, the EO yesterday and the trip to the wall today?
I'm going to be back on the lawn for the show tomorrow morning. Very sunburned, Willie. Yes, I think that is part of it here. It goes to show you the struggles this campaign this time around has had to really make a case. Two reasons. First of all, it is yet to really define its opponent, Joe Biden. We were talking yesterday about how even at the rally in Tulsa, a lot of the attack lines that drew applause were about Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama. He's yet to really land on something about Joe Biden. Even the merchandise, the vendors outside are still selling stuff about Obama and Clinton, not really about Joe Biden. And he's also trying to now make a case for another 4 years. He's trying to point to his accomplishments. And they're struggling with that as well, particularly in terms of this pandemic with so many questions about how he handled it. They're, of course, hoping the economy revives itself. They still want that to be their main argument. They thought it was going to be all along. But with that still uncertain, they're pivoting back to some other 2016 issues, Willie. Some cultural war stuff. We're talking about flags again. We're talking about kneeling NFL players kneeling for the national anthem, and particularly immigration. The visas yesterday, this trip to the border wall today, we're told to expect further action in the coming days and weeks. But the question is, amid everything else that's going on, will an immigration play have nearly the resonance that it did in 2016?
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.